Hello there from our office here at Tasano. You're welcome to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on Citi TV, and my name is Michael Obedu. In the next 60 minutes, I'll be bringing you all the top stories from the world of business this week, starting off with issues on the debt exchange program, e-levy, and resignations of some ministers. If you're ready, let's go. One of the most talked about topics of last year was the whole debt exchange program, which is to aid the government in restructuring its debt. Many people were just not pleased with having to lose their hard-earned savings. The number of worker agitations alone showed how desperate people were. A new group, pensioner bondholders, have joined in and are appealing to the government to exempt them from the debt exchange program because they lament it will severely impact their livelihood.
The deadline imposed by the government under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program is January 16, 2023. The program forms part of measures to restructure government's debt in order to help secure a deal with the International Monetary Fund. In the plan, domestic bondholders are expected to exchange their instruments for longer-dated bonds. But pensioners holding government bonds want the government to exempt them from the program.
Following the amended and restated exchange memorandum which rope in individual bondholders, we pensioners who hold Government of Ghana bonds have come together through this forum to petition your office to exempt all pensioners holding government bonds from the exchange program, as the impact of the program on pensioners who are bondholders will be very severe.
The Ghana individual bondholders have threatened to take legal action against the government. They have urged indirect bondholders such as investors in mutual funds, cash trusts, and balance funds to inform their fund managers not to accept the program. But for Dr. Edu Entry, the convener for the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, their livelihoods will be dire looking at the current economic adversities the country is battling with.
Following the amended and restated exchange memorandum which rope in individual bondholders, we pensioners who hold Government of Ghana bonds have come together through this forum to petition your office to exempt all pensioners holding government bonds from the exchange program, as the impact of the program on pensioners who are bondholders will be very severe.
Already, after several negotiations with organized labor, the government excluded the pension funds of its members from the program. In the same vein, the group expressed willingness to negotiate with the government despite the deadline on January 16.
Those who are yet to come on pension, government say their money, he will not put it under the new arrangement so that is not impaired. And we are saying that for those of us who are on pension, we have received our money already. Then the same vein exempt us also from the exchange. And that's why I said the pensioners, those who are yet to come on pension, their money is like corn. Those of us who are already on pension, our money is like kinky. And our elder says, and snow a brew and a snow dokno. You treat a brew and dokno. Theirs has not been turned to kinky. But if you exempt corn from the arrangement, then exempt the kinky too. If earlier on it hasn't done that negotiation, we are prepared to start that negotiation.
The financial sector has been significantly impacted by this whole debt exchange program. The entire arrangement has occasioned a lot of instability and heightened uncertainties in the banking, insurance, and asset management sectors. Players in this space are calling on the government to introduce measures that will minimize the effect of the program on the industry.
In July 2022, Ghana decided to seek an economic bailout from the International Monetary Fund (IMF). The move was part of efforts to deal with the country's economic challenges. These challenges have led to high inflation and high debt levels, among others. In the process of seeking an IMF bailout, the country had to go through a debt restructuring program to restore debt and financial stability. In all of this, one sector that will be affected is the banking or financial sector, because the program, to some extent, may affect the availability of bank credit and cost of borrowing for Ghanaian companies and households, with potential indirect distributional effects. Dr. Richmond Tuahene is an economist, and he's been throwing more light on the issue.
Because the financial sector is well exposed in the government bonds, I'm told it's about 51.6%. And if it's calculated as done internationally, using the net present value, we use the net present value to calculate the bonds, not just straight cutting. The banks, the work I have done, they'll be losing about 40% losses for this year. And that would directly affect your capital, because when you make losses, it affects their capital and their reserves. So banks, where I'm sitting, 2022, will have a big challenge. And the years to come, it's not going to be anything different. And what makes the losses this year more critical is that as you enter the end of the year, the International Financial Accounting Standard 9 wants you to capture losses if you have not do what we call the market-to-market value. If you're not doing it, the IFRS requests you to capture all losses and go straight to hit the bank account, your bank profit, and that will go straight to hit the losses. And the losses will hit your profits and your reserves. That would inadvertently affect your capital.
It will be recalled that the central bank last month announced measures to help preserve the financial stability for banks that will participate in the program. But Dr. Tuahene believes more must be done.
That's why Bank of Ghana last 2 weeks came with a relief, trying to do what we call forbearances, dropping the capital adequacy ratio from 16, then the capital 16 now is now 10. He dropped 3, so it's now 10. He dropped it in order that if banks have these losses, they'll be able to stand. But it has got a big ramification. If you have a correspondent bank, overseas bank, and he sees that you are not internationally compliant, it will be very difficult to deal with you. To even do your correspondence, transfers and everything, your trade, they will not be prepared to deal with you. So what has happened has a serious implication for the financial, including insurance, if the pensions are included, and the banks and the SDIs.
One other thing is that due to the debt exchange program, which will affect the banks in the country, the private sector will struggle to access liquidity. This will, in the short to medium term, lead to layoff of workers, which will greatly increase the unemployment rate in the country. Citi News spoke to some Ghanaians on the issue. If for one reason or the other, because of this debt restructuring program, your boss comes to you one day and say, "Oh, Kojo, because of this program, we are not getting enough liquidity, enough funds to run the business. So I'm either going to cut down on your salary or I'll have to lay you off." How will you take that?
It's going to be very difficult because at this point, we are in this country and we are facing economic crisis. So if my boss is to cut down my salary, I'm not sure I'll be able to afford certain things I used to buy when I was receiving my actual salary.
If our salaries are to be divided or we are to be laid off, definitely it's going to affect us. It's going to affect our dependents and everybody around us. So I'm hoping that government will have plans, some emergency plans to reduce the impact of this debt exchange program.
But CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaji, is calling for broader stakeholder consultation to ensure the impact on the sector is not dire.
In Ghana, almost all businesses get their funding from the banks because most of them are small in size and cannot go to the stock market to access funding. So almost all the businesses get access to funding from the banks. So this means that in the coming years, through this exchange program, businesses are not going to get access to this funding. And it's going to affect the activities of businesses. It's going to slow down the economy as a whole. So I think that we should have a broader discussion on how we can minimize the potential negative impact of this debt exchange on the productive sector. Otherwise, the effect on productivity, on employment, and overall growth of the economy will be very bad for all of us.
He is, however, hopeful that business owners will employ innovative strategies to ensure their workers do not suffer the brunt of the situation.
I hope that businesses will find a way, since they would want to grow after this debt exchange program, to engage workers and also look at how best the workers can also accept some of the policies and decisions that will come out of these businesses. So I've seen and I've heard other institutions like the banking sector and the insurance sector laying off people. Others have also adopted a way of letting them actually work from home, so to minimize the cost that these businesses incur. But I know every business has a way of dealing with some of these situations. But it's a difficult situation, and I looking at the unemployment level in this country, if we are to lay off people again, then it's going to be difficult for all of us, especially the workers and their families.
Data Bank has had its own fair share of challenges. In December, it had to close its offices and work remotely after some customers began threatening its staff due to challenges associated with accessing their funds. But finally, on the 10th of January, they reopened their offices to work and things seem to have returned to normalcy. In the latter part of December last year, Data Bank issued a communique to its customers indicating that it was going to continue to work remotely until the 10th of January this year. According to the company, this had become necessary because of some security concerns that had arisen in their operations. Some clients had become agitated over challenges with access to their funds. Ordinarily, it took them a day or a couple of days to get access to their monies upon request. But now, it's turned from days to weeks, in some cases a month or over. This made clients very aggressive for their monies and had threatened to attack some of the staff of Data Bank. Well, Data Bank, just like every other fund management company, was having liquidity challenges as there were some issues on the bonds market with selling already existing bonds. Today on the Citi Newsroom, as the company decides to reopen its offices, we will be gauging the mood amongst clients as they visit the premises and also speak with management of the fund management company to find out what has changed with the earlier concerns they raised and what their prospects are for the industry going forward. So we are now in the main hall for Data Bank headquarters. We were here a couple of weeks ago before the announcement of a closure, temporary closure for some reasons that they had raised. And yes, people are here in their numbers, but what we noticed is a rather calm atmosphere. The other time we were here, you could sense literally the tension in the atmosphere. But today everything seems rather calm. Clients are seated in their numbers and in their queues following due process, and I'm sure a lot of them are here to get more information and possibly see if they can get access to their funds. But it's nice to see the fact that tensions don't seem too high today, and we'll go and speak to management and find out how things are faring, especially as they have reopened after some of the reasons they raised, including security, for the reason why they had to close down temporarily. And we'll see if we can engage some of the clients also and find out how the whole virtual experience was for them, if they were able to use it at all, and if it helped them in any way.
My brother, it's very bad. It's very, very bad. Why Data Bank? Why we are facing this problem? Because we don't understand. Those days it was very smiling. Why now everything go down? Why? We don't understand.
So from what you are saying, in the past you weren't experiencing any of these challenges?
At all. At all.
Tell us about it. What was it like those times when you used to come for your
Those
money?
days when I came here, it was very nice. Like I said, I've been smiling. By today I come here, my money is very down. I don't understand. The lady is telling me the government, blah, 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 blah. What is all this? What is going on?
So are you saying that you don't understand what is happening?
I don't understand because my money is very down. My money go down.
We've interacted with customers here in Accra. Now let's cross over to the Ashanti region to find out how different the experience might have been over there.
The atmosphere at the Edum branch of Data Bank in Kumasi was calm as fund holders trooped to the premises to transact business. Some of the customers spoke to Citi News and expressed concern over access to their funds.
I was feeling okay because I know that it's a challenge for the whole country. So I wasn't panicking too much that I'm going to lose my money or something like that. Oh, they received me very nicely, but only to tell me that they couldn't finish doing everything today. So they have given a new date, that is 23rd. We should come if the government will be finishing on everything so that we can also, whether we want to withdraw our money or continue investing our money on it, then we will do that.
Were you here to withdraw?
Oh, I wanted to come and check. If the money is ready, I'll maybe withdraw.
Well, as you can see for yourself, the environment is calm. There's no panic withdrawal. A couple of weeks ago, I heard there was some kind of panic withdrawals, but I have come to see it for myself. The environment is so calm. People are doing their transactions. I don't see anybody making causing any problem here.
The customers said they will wait patiently and return to the financial institution on the date scheduled for them.
But one man time. Say, I'm a ditch in them, China, I'm chain ditch in say, ditch in the swan. And now me bandy, then come PB, I could treat my FCB. But Miss Ann Canintino, Miss Amako.
Oh, my disappointed Kakra. Just say, and not men who say be a saying a bed, a beba. Now, Bassa, and many option be. Oh, Metchang, Minishia may so. The
staff of Data Bank were seen assisting clients in the banking hall when Citi News visited the premises. Most of the fund holders who are visiting the Edum branch of Data Bank are expressing disappointment over their inability to access their funds, but are certain when they come back on a given date, they will be able to access their funds. Hafiz Tijani, Citi News, Kumasi.
Key to this conversation is the management of the Data Bank Fund Management Company. And we have been interacting with their leadership to find out what has changed over the period when they worked virtually and if the concerns like the security ones they raised have settled down. We'll also be finding out what prospects are for clients in getting their monies and overall what the outlook is for the industry going forward. We spoke to the CEO of Data Bank, Kojo Adaimensa.
We did issue a communique, I think that was 22nd of December, and then we did say that we'll reopen today, the 10th of January, and we've gone ahead to open. I mean, I think that at the time, especially in December, there was a lot of tension, a lot of agitation, and we were having some security-related issues, so we thought we'll take advantage of the holiday period and start working and work virtual. We've had that capability right from March of 2020, so that wasn't still a problem. We could still engage and everything. But yes, this morning we've physically reopened for clients to also come in. And across the country, from the feedback I have, it's very calm. I think you would realize also that over the holiday period, there was a lot of conversations around the debt exchange program, and I think more education has gone on, and more clients are beginning to understand, that really it's not a data bank problem. It's not an isolated case. It's a sovereign issue, and we are all working very hard at ensuring that the issue is resolved.
You had raised some security concerns. How far with that? Have tempers settled, or have you crossed that bridge?
Well, I mean, it's midday. So far, so good. Everything seems calm. I'm sitting in the head office this morning. It's very calm. It's a bit crowded, understandably. I'm told Kumasi is also quite crowded, understandably. But it's all calm, and clients are coming to, get more education. Those who are, and there are other transactions we do. That the bigger issue we had was on our collective investment schemes. The biggest being M-Fund. That's where we have the biggest issue. But we have other lines of business that need to also be looked at. So other lines of business have to go on. So I think it's been calm so far.
Have you taken notice of how much e-levy you are paying lately? If you haven't, then you probably haven't realized you are paying lesser than you used to, because the rate has been reduced from 1.5% to 1%. The hope is this will encourage higher rates of compliance to rake in the much anticipated revenue.
Several calls have been made by various stakeholders within the mobile money sector for government to revise the levy after it was introduced. The levy had failed to meet all its revenue targets since its introduction, with players in the telecommunication space raising concerns over the practicality of running an effective mobile money service with a levy in place. After the implementation of the levy, telecommunication companies registered over 300,000 loss of mobile money subscribers in April 2022. Government in 2023 budget noted that the levy will be revised and it will be implemented this year. General Secretary for the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana, Evans Otunfo, says the new percentage will impact the mobile money business positively.
It is basically something that we have been expecting for long, right from the inception of the e-levy policy. We have been calling for a further, review, that is a reduction of age. And so if this time is the opportune time for the implementation of a reviewed policy, then it comes as a good news to us, especially having to wrestle with a burden from the 1.5% since the levy went live. It is a good news to the business, the consumer, even though we have been advocating and expecting that the levy could further be reduced down. I think it is a step in the right direction, as we are expecting that people, that is the consumer, will actually see that the burden of e-levy has actually been taken down.
A member of the e-levy technical committee of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, Opoku Efriye Asante, has assured that his outfit is poised to address concerns of mobile money customers who might be overcharged following the introduction of the 1% levy on electronic transfer.
I'd like to assure the general public the Commissioner General is doing all that he can, and if there are any system glitches, the GRA will be there to reimburse. So we have a procedure for refund. If you are wrongfully deducted, there are procedures in place for you to receive the refunds. So for example, last year when we went live, we realized that some entities were having system glitches. And for that reason, we made sure, or we insisted that all those who were affected had their funds or had their monies refunded to them. So even if in the event that there should be some challenges in the beginning, the GRA would ensure that everyone who was affected is reimbursed for that amount that they were wrongfully deducted. So what I'd like to say is that because the e-levy rate has been reduced, we hope that a lot more people will buy into electronic transfers so that we can recruit more revenue for the state for the purposes of development.
Here are some customers of mobile money sharing their views on the revised e-levy charge.
As a consumer of the platform, I would say our leaders have done well a bit by reducing it to that 1%. Though it's not all the best, but it's better than when it was 1.5%. So as a user of it, I think they are doing something in one way or the other for us to continue using the mobile money platform. Moreover, it's like bribing Peter to pay Paul. It seems like the VAT too has increased. So it's really the same people who are using this money here and there. So if you reduce it in mobile money and you're still increasing the VAT, I think it's still the same, but they've done well a bit by reducing it to 1%. Personally, the reduction is going to help me to use the platform because we are in a transition where digital money is the new order. So personally, whether I like it or not, I'm going to use it. But the 1% will also in one way help me to use it as compared to first. But my problem is the VAT increment.
The 1% is like the same as the old one because I don't see any difference. Because if at least I just came for my money, I see it's like the same thing. So as for me, I want the government to use us like the same old one. Not 1%, 0, yeah, 0%, yeah.
The 1%, no, I cannot change government's mind. You understand? I cannot do anything to it. If I'm not in support of it, I cannot do anything, and government will not do anything about it. So, unless me, I will say that I'm not in support of it. I don't like it.
Inflation is up again for the month of December and stands at 54.1%. This means that the general price of goods went up by that much as compared to the previous month. Some economists have been reacting to this development.
Ghana's annual inflation rate accelerated for the 19th straight month to 54.1% in December of 2022, peaking from 50.3% in the previous month. This is the highest inflation rate recorded in 20 years, with inflation surpassing the 10% ceiling of the central bank's target range since September 2021. The spike in inflation is due to the slight depreciation of the cedi from mid-December, which contributed to a further increase in the cost of imported goods, which was 61.9% versus 55.1% in November. The pressure came from increase in prices of transportation, which was 71.4% versus 63.1%, of which fuels utilities was 82.3% versus 79.1%, and food products was 59.7% versus 47.9%. The government statistician Professor Samuel Kobene-Enim was speaking at a press conference on Wednesday.
The month of November 2022, it was just a single item out of the 307 items that did not see an increase on a year-on-year basis. This has reversed. In December 2022, we identified only 147 items that recorded changes in prices higher than the inflation rate of 54.1%. This was predominantly non-food imported items, but it's always important to keep in mind the weight of food, which is 43.7%. We further look at the top 20 items that recorded highest price changes for the month of December 2022. We still identify diesel recording the highest year-on-year price change, that is between December 2021 and December 2022. What this means is that the recent price changes that we've seen since the month of November 2022 is yet to reflect, because on a year-on-year basis we compare December 2021 with December 2022. However, on a month-on-month basis, the ranking of diesel is around the 15, as the effect of price changes that we've seen, that is the decreasing price changes that we've seen since November 2021, has been recorded in our database, giving diesel's rate of change between November 2022 and December 2022 being 3.8%.
The government statistician also gave a breakdown of the inflationary situation across the regions.
Disaggregating this From a regional perspective, Greater Accra region recorded the highest rate of inflation of 66.7%, Volta region recording the least inflation of 35.6%. So between the regions with the highest and the lowest inflation, there's about a 2 times high difference between these two regions. Disaggregating this from a food and non-food inflation perspective, we did record a 9.8 percentage points between food inflation and non-food inflation, with food inflation December 2022 59.7, non-food inflation for December 2022 49.9%. From a locally produced items perspective and imported items perspective, we recorded a percentage point variation of 10.8 percentage points, with imported items recording an inflation figure of 61.9% relative to locally produced items 51.1%. On a month-on-month basis, for the first time, we are seeing a reversal in the upward increase in month-on-month inflation rate, as it did increase consistently from 2.0 for the month of September 2022 to 2.7 for the month of October 2022, 8.6 for the month of November 2022, and for December 2022, recording a month-on-month inflation of 3.8%. And this is accounting for the reversal in the upward trend that we've been seeing for the last 4 months. Disaggregating this from a food and non-food perspective, food inflation on a month-on-month basis 4.1%, non-food inflation 3.6%, indicating a 0.5 percentage point difference on a month-on-month basis between food and non-food inflation.
The week was characterized by some resignations from top government officials. One of them is the Trade and Industry Minister, Alan Kyerematen. The Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, are rather sad he's leaving. He must have made a very good impression. But GUTA has also been proposing who they hope will be a good replacement. The Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, has described the resignation of the Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kyerematen as a big blow to the sector. Mr. Kyerematen is reported to have stepped down from his post, and although it is unclear why the minister resigned after serving in the portfolio since 2017, it is believed that he took the decision to enable him properly focus on his presidential ambition. Speaking to Citi Business News, the president of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, lauded Mr. Kyerematen for his efforts at enhancing trade in the country.
The Trade Minister, Honorable Alan Kyerematen, has endeared himself to the trading community and the whole business community at that. He is a great asset, I must say, to the nation. And even it goes beyond the nation to Africa. If you look at his role of establishing the African Continental Free Trade, his contribution was very immense. And so we have a great asset, even as a nation, in this gentleman. For this reason, we are saddened by his departure. He has a great deal of insight into the affairs of the Trade Ministry. Don't forget that he has been there twice. During President Kufuor's time, he was there. And then during President Akufo-Addo's time, he has also been the minister. And so his diplomacy, his understanding of the business community has made him very successful.
Meanwhile, GUTA wants the president to nominate the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Nana Dokwa Esiama Eje, as the substantive sector minister. They believe she possesses the skills and knowledge to positively impact the sector. Speaking to Citi Business News, President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, was optimistic that their choice will be considered by President Akufo-Addo.
If you look at the Trade Ministry, as I've said, our sector minister, that's for traders, is Honorable Dokwa. And so she is very good to us, and she relates very well with us. But we do not know what the president also think. But we've said that all the deputies are very hardworking, and that one we are not to propose who to succeed on. Maybe it will be an outsider, but if it should come from within, it is also okay, because we know all of them so that we can continue. She is very affable to the trading community, but you also know that she is the setter, a minister, and the ministry as it is structured also involve other sectors. So, but for me, if I have to be biased, I will go for my sector minister, but the president knows best. Yeah.
Fuel prices dropped slightly this month, but the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana COPEC believes consumers deserve more. And here's why. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana COPEC has expressed concern over what it describes as overcharging by the three major oil marketing companies in the country. According to COPEC, per data available to it for the first pricing window of the month, petrol should retail at 10 cedis 59 pesos per litre and diesel at 12 cedis 84 pesos a litre. However, the OMCs reduced their prices at the start of the year to 12 cedis 40 pesos and 14 cedis 60 pesos for a litre of petrol and diesel respectively. Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, in an interview with Citi Business News, called on the leading OMCs to adjust their prices further in the interest of consumers.
We're expecting prices to be within a certain range. Fortunately, the smaller OMCs seem to have done a very good job with being price sensitive. What you find with the bigger OMCs currently is not encouraging. I talk of the bigger three: Total, Shell, Goil. Whereas you have the smaller ones, some charging 10.9 and 11. Goil, Shell, Total are still doing above 12.4. The numbers we got with the NPA per the window, if you input that with what the BDC prices are, we really don't see where the justification is in charging above 12 Ghana cedis per this window. And so we are calling on the bigger three particularly to reflect what the numbers should actually be for this window.
COPEC further called on the National Petroleum Authority to investigate the prices on the market in order to sanitize the space.
We are also asking the NPA to go back and check again what sort of forex rate is being used for the Ghanaian consumer per the window. Again, what is FOB price that the BDCs are charging? We had an issue with even LPG just a week ago, where the LPG MCs were complaining that the BDCs who bring LPG were still charging higher, whereas the numbers were indicating LPG prices should also have gone down. A few days after, you find LPG prices somehow decline. So it looks as though we sometimes would need to demand for what we are due before the market would respond. And so on such occasion, we are asking also the bigger OMCs, the Total, Shell, Goil, to let their prices be sensitive to the window that we find ourselves. We think that they could do between 11.2, 11.7. It wouldn't hurt anything. Unfortunately, they are doing way above 12. And that we think is not sensitive to the consumer. We are calling on them to reduce their prices further.
The Ghana National Gas Company Limited has revealed that it saves the country about $3 million per month through its localized operations. The state company maintains that ever since local engineers took over active operations from the Chinese, it has recorded significant gains that protect the national purse.
Speaking at the State of the Agency's report organized by the Ministry of Information, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Gas Company Limited, Dr. Benjamin Asante, urged stakeholders to create an enabling environment for the energy sector to thrive. He mentions that Ghana Gas, through prudent management, saves the country about $3 million monthly.
Took over the operation of this plant. Now, I say this not in jest, but not seriousness. I've actually worked in this industry for 31 years, and both Canada and the US and a host of other countries. This is the first time that I've seen a turnaround. In other words, having foreign operators cede operatorship to indigenous engineers and technicians in the shortest time, 3 years. And this was March of 2017. That all those who were operating our plants and pipelines, those in the control rooms, operating floors, our storage facility areas, all Ghanaians. In comparison, or to put it in context, it took our friends in Trinidad and Tobago 40 years to fully cede or assume operatorship of their infrastructure in Trinidad, Point Lisas. Nigeria, our neighbors, took them 50 years. It took our Ghanaian young engineers, men and women, technicians, 3 years. I think they deserve another clap. 3 years. Now, whilst we are at it, we're saving $3 million a month. Because that's about how much we're paying the Chinese to operate it for us. Now, it was difficult. And I tell you, we love the Chinese, but even the operating manuals were in Chinese. So all you have to do is just sit and just look at them. It was a very difficult experience. Nevertheless, we learned something enough and we trained ourselves enough to be able to take over. $3 million a month savings. But that wasn't all. To date, 6 years later, you see that we've also built solid intellectual capital to sustain the industry.
He also called for an enactment of a gas act which will protect the company from undue interference.
Private sector participation, very important. What are the enabling environment to provide access to finance? Because look, these infrastructures require tremendous capital. What enabling environment do we have to bring investors to help us do that? What about local content provision? How are we helping those within the country participate in this industry? Fortunately, we have LI 2204 that allows us to do that. Capacity building, very near and dear to my heart, very important. Community relations. And then we also need a gas act. A gas act, we can do all that, but we also need a gas act that will provide the legal impetus for all the things that we've talked about, or else we won't have a very stable industry.
Government has assured of creating the enabling environment to ensure Ghana achieves its plans of becoming the preferred automotive hub in the West African sub-region. The government envisages that the establishment of the Ghana Automotive Development Council will contribute a significant step towards import substitution and enhancing exports, particularly within the context of the AFCFTA.
The Automotive Industry Development Council is under the Ghana Automotive Development Policy. As part of the functions of the Council, it is to make recommendations for government on the implementation of the Ghana Automotive Development Program, including but not limited to the incentive and regulatory framework, access to industrial infrastructure, vehicle financing, among others. Speaking at a ceremony to inaugurate the 35-member council on Thursday, outgoing Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Dramatin, indicated that the sector has thrived regardless. He noted that government is committed to creating an enabling environment to ensure Ghana achieves its plans of becoming the preferred automotive hub within the West African sub-region.
With all these happening and allowing us to start the industry, unless you have an ecosystem that supports the industry, again, your success will be limited. And that is why we are here assembled in front of this elegant premises, which is now the Ghana Automotive Development Center. Ghana is serious about becoming the manufacturing hub for auto, at least in West Africa. And that is why government has invested an amount of over $8 million to acquire this facility to ensure that under one roof, the ecosystem to support this industry is present and provided. So this building is going to be the secretariat for the Auto Industry Development Council. We don't want a situation where all these many stakeholders cannot even find a place to meet and conduct their business.
The Automotive Assemblers Association of Ghana also revealed that so far, close to 5,000 locally assembled vehicles have been produced since the introduction of the automobile policy in the country. The policy was launched in 2020 to guide the development of a vibrant automotive industry in the country.
The Ghana automotive industry, that is the latter part of 2019, 2020, COVID, and then I said in my speech, to date we have 4,700 vehicles already assembled and pushed into the Ghanaian market, as well as also some gone for export to neighboring countries such as Ivory Coast and Senegal. So these are the numbers we have done so far, and this constitute over 9.7% of our new car market numbers, because from statistics, Ghana, we have a new car market or a car park of about 12,000 at the moment, but we have already produced or assembled 4,700 units in total.
You know how the Harmattan affects visibility, especially in the aviation sector, but players in the industry are assuring the public that there is no cause for concern thanks to the installation of the instrument landing system at the Tamale and the Kumasi airports. This aids in the landing of domestic flights in the event of poor visibility.
One of the perennial weather conditions that may affect the operations of the aviation industry is the hazy weather condition known as Harmattan. The Harmattan season usually starts in the latter part of November and spans through to February. The annual season is in again, and Citi News set out to find how this weather phenomenon is impacting flight visibility in the aviation industry. We had an up-close with Captain Nasser Senior, the chief pilot of Passion Air, a domestic flight company operating in Ghana, and he shares his experience with us.
This year has been very friendly, accommodating, let me put it this way. And in the past, whereby, unlike now, whereby you have modern nav aids, being put in place, which allows you to come, lower than before. Unlike before, the nav aids that we used to use to conduct approaches to land brought you at quite a higher altitude. So obviously, when the visibility is bad, you couldn't actually come in and land. So you had to go back to your departure point, or your alternate, they call it. But for now, in Kumasi, per se, we have what they call the ILS instrument landing system in Kumasi. We have one in Tamale. We have what we call aeronav approaches, which are very, very precise. And it allows you to come in and land safely. And they are much better to use. Like they always say, safety first, and you can't actually compromise your safety. And if you have flight delays or cancellations, just bear with us. They are not intentional, and every cancellation or delay is due to probably a particular reason. And if the weather is bad, due to low visibility, it's all for your safety.
The economic effect of poor visibility of flights cannot be underestimated. What could be the cost effect in situations where airline operators have to cancel or delay their flights due to poor weather conditions? Samuel Abdurazak Tichi is Corporate Affairs Manager of Passion Air, and he also shares his thoughts with us.
Apart from rescheduling flights, it comes the severe Harmattan weather usually comes with a lot of cost implications. A typical example is a case in question where you fly from, let's say, Accra to Tamale. You get the visibilities below the required standard, and you would have to fly back. You would have burnt fuel from Accra to Tamale for no reason because of the weather. So you come back and you have to land. The inconvenience created to the passengers, that is kind of, you would have to accommodate some of them even in hotels. Let's say it's an evening flight. We have an evening flight that leaves here around 4 p.m. to Tamale. You get to Tamale, you're unable to land, you would have to fly back. And so you come back to Accra, you would have to accommodate people who are coming from outside Accra in hotels. That comes with cost. You would have to accommodate those in Tamale as well. Sometimes you do have connecting passengers on the international flight. They would have to reschedule their flights, and all comes with cost.
Finally on the show, African business leaders and industry players have been encouraged to embrace intra-African trade as a means to cause economic recovery on the continent. They have also been asked to focus on innovation and innovative financing.
The Africa Prosperity Dialogues, dubbed the Kwahu Summit, is the brainchild of the Africa Prosperity Network. The maiden dialogue will be held from 26th to 28th January and has been christened as Kwahu Summit because the idea was birthed at the Rock City Hotel in Kwahu. The Africa Prosperity Dialogue series have been established as a convening platform for African political and business leaders to push initiatives to transform Africa with the goal of achieving prosperity across the continent through enhanced economic cooperation, deeper trade and integration, and accelerating impactful investments. Speaking at a pre-engagement summit of the dialogue held in Accra, the executive director of the African Prosperity Network, Dr. Eugene Amwa, called on African business leaders and industry players to leverage on the Africa Free Continental Trade Area for more opportunities.
We do have the potential to lift an estimated 30 million people from extreme poverty. We must, all of us must work together to leverage the AFCFTA to unleash the full potential of this continent and to change the narrative about Africa. It is our hope that the maiden Africa Prosperity Dialogues, dubbed the Kwahu Summit, will help define concrete actions by political and business leaders across the continent, including the right mix of policies. We also do hope that the summit will foster a greater sense of purpose for more robust intra-African trade to happen to support the much-needed industrialization of this continent, which is so key for the prosperity of all Africans.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, indicated that the African continent is blessed with a multiplicity of natural resources and investors must come on board to explore and invest.
A minimum of 12% of our oil and gas, not to mention that this is the continent that harbors 65% of the remaining arable land left in the world for cultivation.
Meanwhile, the Secretary General of the African Free Continental Trade Area, Wamkele Mene, noted that his outfit will engage more with the private sector to discuss ideas about how they can collaborate to tap into the continent's rich resources.
To ensure that the private sector is at the center and that the private sector is one of the pillars of implementation of this agreement. The governments are negotiating the agreement, but they are not negotiating the agreement on their behalf. they are doing so on behalf of the private sector. And so it is very, very important that we have collaboration with the private sector, that we jointly identify the challenges, that we jointly identify the opportunities that will be presented by this market of 1.3 billion people, which is projected by the year 2035 to be a combined market, that is to say consumer spending and business spending, close to 7 trillion United States dollars by the year 2035.
The Minister of Information, Kojo Oponkroma, urged for an all-hands-on-deck approach to brainstorm on ideas to boost inter- and intra-Africa trade.
The African Prosperity Network for showing faith with the idea that was birthed and announced to us some months ago, and for ensuring that it is really coming to life this January here in Ghana. The importance of this platform and the dialogues that will take place here cannot be overstated. First of all, it's a platform on which you will find a very strong confluence of ideas. And as I'm sure you know, the world itself is built on a foundation of ideas. It's important that African leaders, African industry coalesce and fine-tune the kind of ideas that will open the gates to the next frontiers here in Africa. So a platform like this gives us a real opportunity, not a political summit, not some other kind of summit, but a confluence of ideas between industry practitioners and policymakers that would open the next frontiers of Africa.
Well, that will be all for today's episode of your most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on Citi TV. For more business stories, please visit our website, citybusinessnews.com, and you can also catch us on social media by searching for Business Weekly on YouTube and the likes. Well, my name is Michael Obodu. Let's connect on Twitter @MObodu. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed. Bye-bye.